I was fired when my job got outsourced overseas, and instead of getting angry and making a mess, I got quiet. I watched. I listened. I wrote down everything. Every mistake. Every lie. Every illegal thing the company did. And then, when they thought they were safe, I gave all my evidence to the IRS auditors, and the whole company came crashing down because of a $640 million tax problem nobody knew about. Let me tell you the whole story, because it is not what you might think. This is not a story about anger and violence. This is a story about being smart, being patient, and using the law to win. I woke up that morning like any other morning. I showered, I drank my coffee, and I put on my work clothes. I had worked at this company for 7 years. 7 years of staying late, fixing problems, coming up with good ideas, and doing the work that made the company money. I thought I was safe. I thought I was important. I thought my boss respected me and my work would always matter. But I was wrong. At 9:03 a.m., the email came. Position reassigned, effective immediately. The words were cold and simple. My whole department, 12 people, had been moved to another country. We were being replaced with workers who would do the same work for less money. My name, my title, my projects all gone. Someone else's name was on my work now. Someone else was getting credit for my ideas. I sat at my desk and read it again and again. My hand shook a little. I looked around the office, and I saw my coworkers looking at me with eyes that said, "Better you than me." I saw my manager trying not to smile. I saw the HR lady walking fast down the hallway, probably happy to be done with me. I felt humiliated. I felt angry. I felt like someone had hit me in the chest. But then something changed inside me. The anger did not go away, but it became cold. It became quiet. It became smart. I realized something. The person who signed the approval memo was someone I recognized. Someone I had seen talking to my manager. Someone I had seen in meetings where they pretended to care about our work. That person did this on purpose. This was not just a business decision. This was personal. Someone wanted to humiliate me. And I made a promise to myself right then. I would make them sorry. But I would do it the right way. I would do it legally. I would do it so perfectly that they would never see it coming. After that first day, I stopped talking. I stopped complaining. I stopped acting sad or angry. I just came to work, sat at my desk, and watched. I watched everything. I watched my manager's fake smiles when he talked to me. I watched the HR assistant hurry past my desk. I watched the way the team dynamics changed, how people who used to be friendly now avoided me. I watched how some people started taking credit for work that was not theirs. Every email became important to me. Every meeting mattered. I started writing down times and dates. I started saving copies of emails. I started looking for mistakes, for things that did not add up, for lies. People thought I was sad or broken. They thought I was too shocked to do anything. They thought I was the kind of person who would just accept what happened and move on. They did not know that I was building something. They did not know that every piece of information I collected was a brick in a wall that would eventually crush them. I felt invisible, but I also felt powerful. For the first time since I was fired, I felt like I had control. I was not a victim anymore. I was a weapon, and I was being sharpened every single day. After 1 week, I had a lot of information. I had emails, I had memos, I had copies of client work, I had payroll information. I organized it all by date. I looked for patterns, and then I found something interesting. The company's tax filings had a huge problem. The numbers did not match. The money that was supposed to go to the overseas contractors did not match the money that was paid out. There was a gap, a very big gap. I started reading the documents more carefully. I started checking and rechecking the numbers. That was when I realized this gap could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. If someone reported this to the government, the company would have big legal problems. Very big problems. I did not do anything with this information yet. I just kept it safe. I kept it secret. I saved copies on a safe storage that nobody could find. I waited. I started going to meetings again. I sat in the back. I did not say anything. I just listened and watched. Nobody paid attention to me. They thought I was just there because I had to be there. They did not know I was recording everything in my mind. I watched my manager take credit for ideas that came from the overseas team. But I knew the truth. I had the emails to prove it. I watched executives sign approvals without reading them. I watched them trust other people too much. I watched them make mistakes because they thought nobody was paying attention. The carelessness was shocking. They were so sure that they were smart and powerful that they did not think about who might be watching. They did not think about people like me, people they had hurt, people who had nothing to lose. I started making charts in a secret notebook. I drew lines showing who gained money from my job being outsourced. I drew lines showing who made the decisions. I drew lines showing who tried to hide things. The picture became clearer every day. I asked questions. I asked them quietly, like I was just making conversation. How did they pick the contractors? Who decided when we would move to the new team? What happened to our old projects? People answered because they thought I was just sad and trying to understand. But every answer told me something. People's stories did not match. People said different things about the same events. Some people lied. Some people just made things up. I wrote it all down. I saved dates. I backed everything up on a safe device that I kept hidden. The arrogance of these people was incredible. They did not even try to hide things well. They did not think anyone would care enough to pay attention. I was not just angry anymore. I was someone who was building evidence. And every piece of evidence made me feel more sure that I would win. While I was looking through financial records, I found something that made my heart race. One of the overseas contractors had been billed wrong. The company had overcharged them by almost $640 million. $640 million. I checked it again and again. I looked at every number. I traced every payment. It was real. This was not a small mistake. This was a massive violation. This could trigger a federal audit. This could send people to prison. I kept this secret. I did not tell anyone. I just saved the evidence and waited. The betrayal that had hurt me so much had actually given me something even better, a legal weapon that was almost unstoppable. I identified people in the office who might help me, not because I told them my plan, but because they naturally noticed the same things I noticed. They documented errors. They saved emails. They asked questions. They did not know they were helping me build a case, but they were. The office that had seemed so powerful and scary was actually full of mistakes and lies. People were not careful. People trusted each other too much. People assumed nobody was watching. But I was watching. After weeks of silent observation, small things started to happen. Managers would say one thing in a meeting and a different thing in an email. Board meeting minutes said something that did not match payroll documents. People who had promised to fix problems did not fix them. People who had hidden money trails created new problems trying to cover the old ones. I watched all of it. I stayed calm. I stayed quiet. I stayed invisible. I looked up the laws about tax violations and outsourcing rules. I learned about federal audits. I learned about what triggers an investigation. I learned that if someone reports this information to the right place, the government would have to investigate. The company would have to face consequences. The executives would have to answer questions they did not want to answer. I was not going to confront anyone. I was not going to yell or fight. I was just going to give the truth to the people who had the power to enforce the law. Then something happened that was not my plan, but that helped my plan. An external audit started. The auditors had no idea about the specific problems I had documented. They were just doing a normal audit because the company was required to do one. But the auditors found some of the same things I had found. They started asking questions. And when executives got nervous, they made more mistakes. They sent emails trying to hide things. They blamed each other. They created new evidence just by trying to cover up the old evidence. I watched them panic. I watched them suffer. And I felt nothing. No anger. No joy. Just clarity. Just the knowledge that the pieces were falling into place exactly as I had predicted. When I finally presented my evidence to the auditors, I was professional. I was organized. I was calm. I had every email printed and organized by date. I had every financial record explained. I had every inconsistency clearly marked. I had a chart showing the chain of people who made decisions. I had documentation of the $640 million discrepancy. The auditors looked at my evidence, and I could see it in their faces. They understood the problem was much worse than they had thought. This was not a small mistake. This was a major violation. The auditors reported their findings. The company was in huge trouble. Executives faced legal investigations. The company had to pay massive fines. People had to answer questions from lawyers and government officials. The reputation of the company was damaged. Some executives left. Some executives went through criminal investigations. The office hierarchy that had broken apart so carelessly when I was fired now fell apart completely under the weight of truth and legal pressure. I returned to work. My job was restored. My reputation was restored. I was not angry anymore, but I was satisfied. I had learned something important. Patience is more powerful than anger. Silence is more powerful than noise. Truth is more powerful than lies. And the law is more powerful than arrogance. The people who had tried to humiliate me had destroyed themselves. They did it by being careless. They did it by thinking they were untouchable. They did it by assuming nobody was watching. But I was watching the whole time. This story is not about revenge that is cruel or violent. This story is about justice. Real justice is quiet. Real justice is patient. Real justice comes from facts and truth and law. When I was fired, I had a choice. I could have gotten angry and done something stupid. I could have yelled at my boss. I could have quit and left in anger. I could have tried to sabotage the company with illegal actions. All of those things would have made me look bad. All of those things would have hurt me. Instead, I chose to watch. I chose to listen. I chose to document. I chose to wait. And because I chose those things, I won. The executives who hurt me lost everything. Not because I attacked them. Not because I fought them loudly. But because the truth came out. Because I was patient enough to wait for the right moment. Because I was smart enough to understand the law and how to use it. If someone betrays you, you have a choice. You can react with emotion, or you can respond with intelligence. You can be loud, or you can be silent. You can be obvious, or you can be invisible. You can try to hurt them, or you can let the truth do the work. The most powerful people in the world are not the ones who yell the loudest. The most powerful people are the ones who understand how the game is played. The ones who can wait. The ones who can watch. The ones who can document. The ones who can present facts so clearly that no one can deny them. I was humiliated and fired. But I was also given a gift, time. Time to observe. Time to learn. Time to build. Time to wait for justice. And that gift made all the difference. The office will never be the same. The company will never be the same. The executives will never forget what happens when you assume nobody is watching. And I will never forget what I learned. That silence can be more powerful than any word, and patience can be more powerful than any action. That is the real story of my revenge. Not loud, not violent, not emotional, but perfect, legal, complete, unstoppable.